I'm Chef Bernice and welcome to today's lesson. Today's lesson is a continuation of stocks, soups and sauces. So as we have learned in our theory, we made a stock and we're going to use the vegetable stock as a base to produce other items. The item that we are going to make today is an apple and butternut soup, which is classified in our thick soups, pureed soups. So if we go to our theory notes, classification of soups, we have thick and clear, and today's one would be a puree. And let's look at the ingredients that we would need and the equipment to produce it. So we're going to need some butternut, some normal vegetable oil, a little bit of curry powder, but you could omit the curry powder if you don't want it. It's no biggie. And Granny Smith apple, an apple that's a little bit on the tart side. Some carrot. You can leave the carrot out as well if you're not a fan, but it does help with the color and nutritional value. And then our normal onion. We have a little bit of stock that we have done, and then chopped thyme. Not the thyme, but the thyme as in the herb. And then we also have a little bit of parsley. All right, so with this, we will always practice and execute our knife skills. As today's lesson, I will take you through some of the knife skills that we have learned. Knife skills video for you to recap. So let's just start with the first. We want to get our knife grip. So in order for our knife grip to be perfect and the vegetable item not to roll around, we are going to hold and claw so that when my knife is in use, back and forth, up and down, so that the knuckle is your guide. So nothing will, please don't lift up like this. This is where we're going to cut ourselves. So we would take the knife up and a rolling action down onto the heel and set it aside. For peeling, you would use your peeler, and we never peel towards ourselves because this is a cutting edge, and we've learned that cutting edge or knives are sharp. So we will always peel away from ourselves onto the cutting board. Again, recap on the colors of the coding, our chopping boards that we would use, and that would be green because we're busy with fruits and vegetables. Set all of your trimmings aside. And the key here is the base. So all of our vegetables need to be the same size to again ensure even cooking. So we start out with our block. So creating a foot for the vegetable to stand so that when I apply my rocking motion, it is all in one. So I'm going to cut this into julienne as per our video on knife skills. Up and down, keeping our fingers away but securing the vegetable. We would have our even slices, and again from there a julienne is a matchstick. Right, and the key here is to have it the same. So we would make a brunoise. So again, my knife is going to do a rolling action and my claw is holding the vegetables intact. And I'm applying a rocking motion. So as soon as you feel that it's unsafe or you feel that it's not secure, then stop. Nice swift movements again. We will now process our carrots in this way. Nice and even sizes. so that it cooks as well. We have learnt about consistency and doneness, time and temperature relationship. Now that we have our character side, I'm going to show you how we chop an onion without crying. So the key component here is that you're going to cut through the root bed, but keeping the root bed intact. So you're going to make your incision, keeping it all in one. So again, secure, cut through so that you cut through the onion's root bed and the root bed is still intact. Proceed by trimming off and peeling back your onion. Did you know that the younger the onion is and the less the time it has to dry, the fresher it is and the more it will make you cry? So the more time an onion has to hang and to dry to form the outer skin, the better for you. And yes, there's those myths. So if I put on glasses, if I put it in the refrigerator, it will lessen the tears and the crying. No, not really. All right, so we are now going to proceed where the root bed is still intact. And we are going to take our chef's knife and we are going to cut, making an incision down, using your finger as a guide. All right, and again, now we are going to, we've cut through, so I'm going to now cut through this way. 1, 2, 3, nice up and down. Oh, this one is making me cry today. All right, we're going to cut quickly for the tears to disappear. So this one is a very fresh onion. Back in scene. Tears are gone, so let's go. And we've quickly chopped our onions. And let's move that aside, which is our mise en place. And we're going to do our apple. So I'm only going to, for this exercise, use a half an apple. It lends quite a bit of a fruity profile to it. So in order for me to remove the seed section, I'm going to use a nice little special tool called a corer. The corer has got a little cutting edge, and we're going to place it directly over the stem section, and we're going to apply pressure whilst twisting all the way down. And that is going to release the seed section. Voila! Great stuff. We don't want that. Again, I'm only going to use a half. So just peel your apple. Any imperfections, don't worry about those, because we're going to gently cook away all of this and make a nice puree. Okay, let's go. There we go. Again, now this is slicing, nice little roll motion, making sure that my slices are nice and even. Again, so to make work faster, put a few on top of one another. Again, We want to get them going as quickly as possible. There we go. And apples, fun fact, will oxidize when it is exposed to oxygen. And we want to avoid apples and fruit to oxidize. Potatoes oxidizes too, because it has a high starch and cellulose fiber in it, and we want to get rid of it. So simple, putting it in a little bit of water would be just as good, or alternatively, put it in a little bit of lemon juice, an acid. Okay. Okay, and again, we have julienne, and from our julienne, we turn it again into our brunoise. Brunoise. So at any point, you can stop and watch the knife skills video again for your comfort and ease. Towards the end of our cook, you will find a couple of links giving you tools, hints, tips, and the chef's tip to making your life a little bit easier when it comes to storage of items, when we have prepared it, and for service, and then different alternatives to use. So today's soup is completely vegetarian friendly because we've made use of a vegetable stock, and we're using vegetables and fruit. So let's get the cooking process going. We're going to start out by taking our vegetable oil into our cooking pot. Right, followed by our onions and our carrots and our curry powder. It's best to cook out the curry powder, otherwise you're going to have a quite strong, pungent flavor, and you don't want it. You want a very subtle flavor. So in goes. Okay. We've got our spoon yet again. And we want to, based on a cooking method, we will now sweat. We're sweating. We do not put a lid on. And we do it over a low to medium heat. You can use butter as well, oil, and a small amount of oil is good. So as soon as I have this happening, let's have a look there, guys. Fantastic. All right. We're going to add our curry powder and continue to cook. We're going to add our chopped thyme. My apple goes in. And stirring. Oh, that's delicious. I wish you could be on this side of the camera where you can smell the beautiful curry smell that's being released right now. And some of you are going to say, okay, apple, what? Apple. I promise you it just brings out the natural sweetness from the butternut. After all, based on our classifications of fruits and vegetables, we have learnt in our theory notes that squashes belong to what type? Let's refer to our notes. Fantastic. We're going to just ensure that the butternut is slightly smaller so that it will cook a lot faster. And I've gone for already peeled. Just saves a little bit of time. And this is smelling really nice over here. Okay. Just the larger bits into smaller so that it will cook a little bit faster. And now I'm using the tip and the point of my knife. So it's very important to know your anatomy of your knife. So you'll find on this side, we will have our anatomy of our knife and how to hold it and how to correctly use it. In goes my butternut. And this is one of the beauties. While this is going, you can happily put on a batch of either bread rolls, you can get that going, or you can make soda bread that really goes well, and it's a light lunch or an early supper. So again, this is over a lower heat, so I'm going to just turn it up a little bit. So whilst that is going, some nice fresh parsley. And we're going to just chop it as well. So just my little guy over here, so you guys can see me a little bit closer. And we get all of the herbs together. And again, we're going to use the heel side. That's one way of doing it. If you are not confident yet with your knife skills, you can do a rocking motion whereby you apply pressure and up and down with a chopping motion, and you bring back, or you put, but please, for heaven's sake, do not do this. You might end up cutting your fingers. So always out of the way or controlling where you can see your fingers. Again, please never run your finger with the blade. Always scoop it off. Otherwise, we've got some first aid happening. Alright, beautiful. Okay. Now that my veggies are done, I add enough vegetable stock or chicken stock to cover. And this is now where you want it to get to a boil, and then you turn it down to a simmer. Again, we're referring to cookery methods. Right. Whilst this is busy preparing, we will clean up and tidy. I want to take you to something that, I don't know if you know what this is. It almost looks like birdseed, doesn't it? So let's quickly go back on our grain section that we have learned, and farinaceous and pasta items. And let's quickly have a look at what quinoa is and its properties and how we can use it in the kitchen. It's an ancient grain. Let's start with that. And let's go to module where we cover. So now that you have read the theory notes about grains and a little bit about quinoa, you will notice that this is white quinoa where the husk has been removed. This is a beautiful little grain that is very often not used enough. It can substitute your rice, your starches, and it cooks like a normal rice where you would put cold start put it in your pot with a little bit of water, bring it to the boil, tender when you break it, and then this can turn into a sweet or a savory element. If we are going to make savory, it's a great substitute for couscous when we do Mediterranean cuisines. When we want to do a breakfast, a nice healthy breakfast, replace our oats, replace our maltabella, and why not do a little bit of quinoa with a little bit of sugar, a little bit of berries, and cook it up as a sweet porridge. You will just add a little bit more fluid and you will obtain a porridge-like consistency. So that about our ancient grain. Storage, as in the links, you will find the correct storage for as it is, when it is cooked, and how to use it. Let's have a look. Okay. And here, because it is a soup item, we do not skim, we do not need to, with a stock, to clear the surface area. Here, we just simply allow it to boil and soften the food. So, this is great for healthier diets and special needs, where a patient would be able to consume this if they've gone for surgery, minus the apple perhaps. Just look at the acidity level there, because apples lend a little bit of acidity to that. And then this would be a great one to use again for those that have any special needs. So again, let's go to your module recapping dietary requirements. What are vegans? What type of vegans do we get? So have a look at our vegans. Let's look at our theory. So how do we test whether the soup it's done? We're going to test the thickest vegetable by just taking your knife, protruding it in, and it needs to glide in and glide out without. So for example, if I were to use this, I would have to apply quite a bit of pressure and force to get it through, and it will not be done. However, I should be able to insert my knife with ease and exit with ease, and that will be an indication that the vegetable that's the thickest in cut will be done. Okay, we're going to cut. Increase it, because then, like you can see in here, that we have, let's have a look-see, let's have a look-see, right? As it's bubbling away, it's hopping, hopping, hopping and going, the vegetables and the fruit in there is bouncing against one another. And so what we'll find is that the shape and the texture will be damaged as it continues with the stock. But with the soup, the stock is only merely the base. So we will add all of the ingredients to give it a lot of flavor. What you will also need for this is a food processor. So you'll see that we have a food processor attached over here where we will insert our content, and we will close and we will blitz until it is a thick puree. Then you can use a little bit of cream, or you can even substitute that and make it completely vegan friendly, where we will use a little bit of coconut milk instead. So whilst that, I have selected a nice little square bowl. And we must always be mindful of presentation and how our dish is going to look at the end. So this is a little bit time consuming. So if you were to make your bread, that would be on the go while your soup is busy cooking away. So again, if we are busy with bread products, let's recap some bread, leavened and unleavened. Let's look at the theory behind leavened and unleavened. So when we have leavened and unleavened, you'll see that leavened bread requires either a natural or a chemical agent. So we will then add yeast, which would be seen as a natural leavener, or we would add either baking powder or bicarb of soda, and that will give it the beautiful lift. Or we would go with unleavened. When we have unleavened breads, we will have no chemical rising agent, we will have no yeast, or perhaps a small amount of a chemical rising agent, or the fermentation process is hindered where there is no alcohol production. Again, please look at our theory to recap what yeast would like as a living organism. So let's go back to this. All right, so our item is almost done and ready for us to process. So remember, always mindful that this is hot. We've got a hot area. So you might want to use your tea towel, a cloth that is dry, and proceed. For bread shapes and different bread rolls, please look at the video and see the different shapes that can be created. We can go from basic, complex, seeded, non-seeded, egg-washed, non-egg-washed. It will all depend on what you want to do. So with our different shapes that we've got here, we can also now determine, am I going to serve it for dinner? Am I going to serve it for a light lunch? Does it need to have a little cocktail roll, plaited or braided roll, or just a normal little bun? We're going to cut. Now, yes, definitely soft. So I'm going to move over now, and I'm going to process my soup. So again, make sure that your food processor or liquidizer can be done. Then again, always, when we do this, never pour towards you, but rather away. And the safety is that we are busy with hot liquids and burns accidents. It's one of your common one that we have learned in our previous modules. So unclip, always pour it away from you so that the steam can go the opposite direction. Just ensure that you've got everything in there. We don't want to leave any of the goodness behind. Lovely. Remember to season afterwards, not before, because your stock can reduce and it will make it salty. So again, our lid in, lock it in. Righty-ho, we should be done. Let's have a look at this. Ooh, nice and hot. Now the lid doesn't want to come off. There you go. Right. Beautiful. Again, the portion size will differ depending on, is it for a light lunch or whether it is the main item to be had at dinner. To finish it off, as I said, I'm going to take a little bit of cream. And the difference in viscosity between the cream and the soup will be of such a nature that we have a suspension. So again, look at our sauces. When we dealt with sauces, look at what is a suspension. Make a little pattern, and you'll notice that your cream stays on the surface of your item. And then last but not least, we're going to finish it off with a little bit of garnish. Toasted pumpkin seeds can also be added for final touch and texture, because there's butternut in here, so pumpkin seeds would be really good. And we are done.